Okay. Hello, everybody. We are here. I'm Riah Gonzalez. I am the host of The Perfect VA, and I'm super excited to have Dr. Alyssa Adams with us today. And we are going to dive into some juicy stuff that we struggle with as female entrepreneurs that we have some answers to. So that's kind of exciting. Um, Alyssa, why don't you share with us a little bit about yourself and how you serve people?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first, I'm just really excited to chat with you and to have this conversation because I think it's so important. These are things that I've struggled with, probably so many people can relate to. So, I am Alyssa Adams. I'm a psychologist turned intuitive business coach. And I work with successful but stuck, often secretly stuck entrepreneurs to get to the heart of really what sets them apart in their industry so that they can really authentically stand out, build wealth, feel more confident and just allow them some space to kind of work through all of the stuff that might be preventing them from moving to the next level in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that is common. I think we all go through that,
Yeah.
in many stages too. And in fact, like recently, we've really expanded and we've really grown at Link Consulting Solutions. And
Hmm.
so we hit this new level, and I'm like, this feels strange. This feels new and different. And like,
Yeah.
how do I move past this feeling? And so I think this is for somebody who's new, but this is also just an ongoing process of
For
growth
sure.
that we go through, where mindset can be really helpful for us to pay attention to.
Hmm.
So, talk to us a little bit about what is the mindset issues that happen as we level up? Like someone in my situation, what
Hmm.
are some of the things that you see in your clients?
Yeah, for sure. It's such a great question. And I do think it's individualized a bit just based on our own background, our own kind of uh, trigger points or our own areas that we can stumble on sometimes, many times throughout our lives when different situations present themselves. So there's always a little bit individualized based on that. But one of the things that I see often, there's a few things that I see often, is really around clearing the resistance to growth.
Hmm.
So often there's a lot of resistance that comes up when we think about growth. We're either worried that the next level is going to take up too much of our time. We're going to have to invest a lot of money. We're going to be exhausted and drained by the work. We're not going to be able to find the right people to help us, right? There are all these different things that can really bubble to the surface. So one of the simplest things that I do with people a lot is to actually help them get really specific around what is the fear, right? Like what is that resistance that's coming up for you? Because fear and resistance and self-doubt, they can all become really vague. And we sort of just feel this general sense of unease. But what we try to do is just get super specific. Like what is it specifically that you are afraid will happen when? Or that you're worried about this particular thing. Like, let's get really clear on that. So sometimes that's fears around money, changing the direction of their business, fears of being seen, but we want to get really clear on them so that we can start to untangle those specific fears and really clear them out of the way and clear them out of the way enough to move. Doesn't mean that you have to be fear free because that may not be possible. But enough so that you can move through whatever the thing is that's holding you back and developing a really strong core of self trust and honesty with yourself can be so helpful when we're moving to any other level. Because, I mean, one of your tasks as a business owner is to trust yourself, right? To trust your judgment, to trust that you can handle whatever it is that comes your way. Trust yourself with your word. And being really, really honest with yourself is one of the ways to get there so that you know when you're moving in a direction you don't really want to. So those are some of the things that can be really helpful as we're approaching any level of growth.
Yeah. It's funny, yesterday, I was talking to somebody and I was saying that, sometimes I have anxiety around decision making. And it will be because I feel like, am I making this decision because it's an impulsive decision, or am I making this decision because intuitively my gut is telling me it's the right decision?
Mhm.
And so sometimes I'll make the decision because I think my gut is telling me, and then it's wrong. And then I'll like affirm for myself, see, you can't do that. So then sometimes I don't make the decision, and that was wrong. And then I affirm for myself that I can't make a decision. And so then when it comes time where I'm like really sincerely trying to seek the answer, I'm so anxious about it, and I'll fret about something that's so small. Like, it could be something about like a $20 purchase or something, because I'm so worried that I'm going to make the wrong decision that will like affect whatever. I don't know why, that would be, but it's because we lack that intuitive gut check, and we don't know how to really go within and have the mindset of trust. And so that just ties right into what you're saying, is like you have to shift into that mindset of trusting yourself, because otherwise you're wasting so much time being anxious about, whatever it is that whatever dumb little thing you're, waffling about. And often the things can be undone. So if you make a mistake, then you can undo it. And if it's not, then it's a lesson, and then you're like, okay, well, that was expensive. Let's move on. You know what I mean? Like whatever it might be. And so, I think I'm working definitely to be more self-aware, that that's
Mhm.
what's happening when I feel that I'm having anxiety bubble up about something. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, why is this happening? This is happening because I don't trust to make a decision. What do I need to do to trust? And I'm trying not to seek external
Yeah.
validation to make the decision, which is my go-to. And
Mhm.
we don't have coworkers where we can go to the cubicle next to us and say, "Hey, Bob, can you take a look at this real quick?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we are Bob, okay? So
Yeah.
we have to take a look at this real quick,
Mhm.
and then do what we need to do to make those decisions, and then trust, and then accept the outcome.
Yeah.
Accept the outcome.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. You said
why
something really beautiful there too around like embracing something that didn't go as planned and maybe changing our language a little bit about even how we describe it to ourselves, right? That this wasn't a mistake necessarily. It just was maybe it showed me something that was helpful for me to know. Maybe it taught me something that was really important and valuable. Maybe it put me on a different path than I would have been on. Or
Yeah,
maybe it was something that just like wasn't right and I was trying and it just didn't, pan out, but giving ourselves some grace around that so that we have the freedom to be in that space. Um, and finding your kind of like Bob coworker, right? Like your
yes,
sounding board person. Is that a good business friend? Is that a coach? Is that your partner, like whomever, right? But finding some sort of sounding board can be helpful, even just to hear yourself talk about it out loud, whatever the thing is, so you can tune into your own voice. Yeah, you made some great
I love
points
that.
there.
Yeah, I love that too. Um, Why do you think that it is so hard to let go of certain things, and hard to trust somebody else? So we know that we have difficulties trusting ourselves sometimes as
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, but why do you think it's hard to let go and trust somebody else?
Yeah, and trusting someone else to help with the work, like a VA or someone you're handing off some amount of work to.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this is something I've grappled with for a while in my business, but so many folks struggle with this, right? I mean, and I think there's all kinds of reasons why. I think one, you want to make sure you have a really good fit
Yeah.
with the person, right? So you feel like you're on the same page, they get you, you get them, you're kind of like singing from the same sheet of music, so you understand what your kind of flow is. I think that can just build a lot of trust automatically to have that like click with the other person where you feel like they get you, you get them. The expectations are really clear around who's doing what and what it is that you really want from the other person. But I think it's hard to trust people sometimes because it's just unfamiliar,
Right.
right? Like it can feel like a big leap to go from I'm the solo person who cares so much about my business that I'm doing the copywriting, the editing, the emails, the sales pages, the website design, the everything, right?
Yes.
Um, to be able to say, hey, this thing that I've like birthed that I care so much about, right? That I've poured my heart and soul into, it's so unfamiliar to be able to hand off little pieces to people like, oh, now you do that thing. um so I think like letting it become more and more familiar to you, like just dipping a toe in, getting used to that, trying something else, then dipping a toe in, um and connecting with the relief actually that it brings can be helpful. I mean, just having someone who can take something off your plate and do it in a way where you're like, wow, that's actually really good,
Yeah.
and really helpful. And now I don't have to think about it. So connecting with that feeling of kind of relief so that you can be more in your CEO role than the person who's doing every single thing in your business. Because at some point that becomes impossible. It's just
Right.
unsustainable to you. So being able to continue to tap into that part of yourself that lets you shift into a CEO role, right,
Yeah.
of your business, seeing it as a business where you don't have to be the conductor and the orchestra. You can actually get help in making it a little more familiar to you by doing
Yes.
it in bite-sized ways can be really helpful. At least that I found that to be helpful for me.
Yes. One of the ways when people are like, I don't even know how to get started, I always recommend a brain dump.
Yeah.
By brain dump, I mean start from the minute you wake up in the morning to like all of the things you do throughout the day. I don't even care if workout is on there, like brush your teeth is on there, like everything. Do everything because you're going to uncover things even personally that maybe somebody can take over that for you personally. Unfortunately, no one can work out for us. That would be great.
That would be great.
But then when you find the core tasks that are tasks that could be potentially delegatable, you write them out in like an Excel spreadsheet or in whatever you want. And then I say, there's different ways that you can separate them out, but one that aligns with what you're saying is these are green tasks. These are tasks that I could give away right away. It would be very
Yep.
easy for me to give this task away. I would have no problem. I hate this thing. You go away and I would be fine. These are like yellow tasks. So these are things that I could give away, but it would take some time. Like I'm going to need to build a little trust to be able to let somebody in to let them do this task. These are red tasks. These are ones that would be exceptionally hard for me to give away. Like really, I feel like they're an only me task, but I know that there are parts of them that other people could do, but I would need to like be the godmother of their newborn child. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, like they would need to be like have a very high level of trust with each other in order for
Yeah.
me to give this over. And then you have the ones that are just me. Like literally, I'm never going to give this away. This is me. I
Yeah.
love this. I love this task. This is why I started my business. This is my zone of genius. This is
Yeah.
something that I could never trust somebody else to do because I love it and no one's going to love it the way that I love doing this thing. It brings me so much joy. And then what you do is you find somebody part-time to take over the green stuff and you develop a relationship with them. And eventually you're like, wow, that was so easy. And they're doing it better than I would do it. And I hate that thing. And that's amazing. And then you start giving them some of the yellow stuff, and little by little, you're like, wow, okay. Like I can trust them with this stuff. And then a little bit more and a little bit more. And eventually you get to the red stuff. I mean, at this point, people think I'm crazy because I do this, but I have the trust to be able to do this. I have my bookkeeper is in the Philippines. She's a certified CPA and she's QuickBooks certified, all that kind of stuff. And for me, it just worked well because my VAs are in the Philippines, and I was just like, I wonder if I could find somebody who'd be more cost effective for me, but also, well qualified. So she's like a financial assistant for me. She helps me pay my other VAs so I don't have to worry about that. And she's of course in all of my business banking. And I said, I want you to pay my personal bills. And so she does. She goes into my personal bank account every month and she sets up all of the bill pay for all of my personal bills every single month. And that obviously that's a red task. Like
Yeah.
letting
Yeah.
someone into your personal bank account, not just because they have access to your money, but they have access to looking at what you spend your money on
Yeah.
in like very private, like
Mm-hmm.
that's just like basically I'm saying like I'm going to stand naked in front of you once a
Yeah.
month and like, hopefully you don't judge,
Mm-hmm.
but if you could like hold some fabric up on me and like, I mean like
Yes.
it's just very vulnerable to let
Mm-hmm.
somebody in that way. But
Totally.
she has built the trust over time where I feel comfortable with her and I know that she's going to do it better. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. That's a task that for me was going undone because I was so busy that I would forget.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's crucial that it be done. And so, I think that like dipping your toe in is like such a great way to do it. And there's lots of green tasks.
Yeah.
Fill them up. Everything you're procrastinating, everything you hate, everything that needs to get done but doesn't get done, like all that stuff. That's a green, like fill a whole list of that stuff
Oh yeah.
and then work backwards from there. So I think
Mm-hmm.
people don't know that that's an option, but that's absolutely right in terms of like I think what you said that I've never articulated, which is so important, is allow yourself to feel the relief.
Yeah.
Let yourself soak that in. You know what I mean? Okay, I no longer have to worry about that thing. Like I don't have to worry about my bills being paid. I can
Yeah.
just know that it happens. And that's one thing that's off my list that I just know that it's going to be taken care of. And or it could be I know that my newsletter is going to go out on time, or I know that my social media posts are going to post on time, or I know that my clients are going to get an update email or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
It's just allow yourself to sit in that and say I didn't have to take care of that. And our time is very precious.
It is
Very,
absolutely.
very valuable. So yeah, that's so, so true. Um, what have you found are some things that we can do in the mindset work that can
Mm-hmm.
pave the way for ourselves to have a more joyful work environment? What are some of
Mm-hmm.
those things?
Yeah, yeah, I have a few thoughts on that. Such a great question. And who doesn't want that, right? More expansive and joyful space to work in. Um, so I think that acknowledging you get to create the experience you want for yourself, right? Like you get to design that experience for you. So designing your business in the way that allows for joy and fun in the environment. And that may look different for every person, but really being able to answer the question like, what would it take for you to have more fun and enjoyment in your business? Is that help? Is that actually less clients? Is that more space? Is that to raise your prices? Like, what is that? Right. And
Right.
really being able to kind of honestly dig into that, and making it specific and clear. And then how can you start to create that? Sometimes it's just around cultivating a different emotion on purpose, right? Where um, we're often, I think, taught that you're just sort of at the mercy of emotions. Like they bubble up and you have them and they're there. And yes, that is a true experience. And also, we can cultivate different emotional experiences as we choose to. So that doesn't mean that you shut down emotions or that they're not important. They're actually really important, especially if you are deciding, hey, I want to feel more joy.
Yeah.
Wonderful. What helps you feel joy? What makes you feel connected to joy? It's free, right? Like how do we cultivate that? Is it music? Is it a certain song you listen to in the morning? Is it a certain thing you do in the middle of your day? Is it sending like a text to someone you really love and care about? Like what are those things that help you cultivate joy? And then building that into your day, building it into your business, really. Are you feeling like most of the things during the day don't make me feel so good, or I have a hard time connecting with joy during the day? Okay, well, let's look at that, right? Like what's
Right.
going on there? And how can we get you into a space of cultivating more of that on demand with intention?
Yeah.
So, um, I think that's a simple way to do it that, I mean, doesn't cost anything and allows us to really be more in the driver's seat around our own experience and how we are kind of in conversation with our business and our life, really.
Yeah, I think that's so true. There's like a certain sound, like I'll go through phases where there's a certain soundtrack that I'll like love and I'll like make my family sick of hearing the same songs over and over
Mhm.
again, but that's what brings me joy in that moment. And then I also like I try different things, but I have this thing I bought. These are money magic manifestation cards.
Oh, I love
And
it.
then I pull one every day. So like today's says, I am blessed with unending abundance. And then
Mm,
I look at it all, I set it up in front of my computer and I look at it all day and, like try to remind myself. And it's just like little things like that. Like, what can
yep.
you do in your, or like they're not lit right now, but like I have candles here
Hmm.
and I like to have candles lit. It just makes me feel good.
Hmm. Me too.
Those are some external things that you can do, but then it's like, there are internal things that you can do too. Like I love to do I have a short um, meditation that gets sent to my email every day. And
Mm,
so I like to start my day with this little 5-minute guided meditation every day. And it just makes me feel like, okay, all right, I'm awake now. Let's do
mhm.
this. Got this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So those types of things, I think we just have to like really, like you said, step back and say what does bring us joy, and if we're not experiencing it, how can we incorporate some of those things back into our life?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
good. Yeah. Um, what do you think in terms of how do we let ourselves experience more abundance? Well, especially
Mm.
when we're seeking and accepting help that we need because we need to create a sustainable business.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a big task and a big question. To me, one of the ways that I go about this when I'm working with others and when I'm doing my own kind of personal work is to really look at some of the messages I received about help throughout life. Um, what was reinforced for me, right? Like, what were the things that I was rewarded for doing, right? That's kind of how we learn. And often the messages we receive before the time we're seven, up until the time we're seven, really, really kind of anchor in these core beliefs for ourselves. You can create beliefs and stories after that, of course, but these kind of core stories of how we believe we are to be can start really early. So, what are those messages you received about help, right? What are the messages you received about um, doing things on your own or being a person who is really independent? Like, part of my identity is that I'm a really independent person. Well, what does that mean to me? Does that mean that I can't have help? No, it took me some time to get there. But for a while, I think part of that story or that definition was like, I can do this. Like, I don't need anything, right? I got it. I rely on me. So it's almost that like shadow side of independence where we really have to dig into, well, is this serving you right now? Is this the story you want to keep? Is this something that we need to maybe unpack and look at more closely? Um, so for me, there's been a lot of work that I do and then also have helped others do around like what is our story around accepting help? Like where did we get the message and when did we get the message that was something we shouldn't do or that we should be able to operate without it? Um, so I think exploring that a little bit can help take some of the emotional charge out of it. It can take some of the resistance away from getting help because it is almost impossible to keep hitting different levels of growth without getting some help, support, whether it be personal support for ourselves, whether it's business related support, whether it's something where we're handing off tasks to someone. But help can come in all kinds of flavors. So, thinking about what is our resistance to help and what is it that we need to shift or change to maybe be able to allow it in more.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something that I've been working on too because I love being a helper. Like,
Mhm.
there's like very few things that give me more joy than helping someone else.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for me to be helped, like
Yeah.
to receive gracefully receive help
Mm-hmm.
because, and what I've found is it makes me feel weak. It makes
Mm,
me feel like I should be able to do it for myself. And again, I think it's digging, and I've been doing some healing, some different work around that. And, like, where does that come from? That, like we all need help. Like we are
yeah.
humans, we need connection. That's like a base need for us. And
Yep.
also we don't know how to do every single thing, and we can't do every single thing, and we are emotional and sensitive, and and bad things happen where we need support or we feel sad or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And I love being the person that sends the text at the right time, or sends a
Mm-hmm.
song to somebody who needs it, or sends a DoorDash to somebody who's having a
Mm,
bad day, or
yeah.
does whatever. Like, I will give everything, the shirt off my back, because I love giving to others. It brings me so much joy. And what I seek for myself, and I hope, or I know that I will find, is that I want to feel that level of joy when I give to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
especially in business too. Like, I mean, I'm getting there because, you guys, if you do not have a VA, it is so freaking amazing. like when somebody does something and you're like, oh, I don't even have to do that. And it's
Yeah.
better than I would have done. So
Mm-hmm.
that, like, once you can get past that trust point, that is my gift to myself. I receive
Yep.
that. I receive that I can accept help from my VA, that she will do things for me that I cannot do because she is smarter than me in that area. And
Mm-hmm.
that is not
Mm-hmm.
my zone of genius. And that's fine. I don't want it to be. That's boring to me. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, I want
Yep.
to be with people. Um, but that it's there and it's taken care of. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
like chef's kiss. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's when you take it to a deeper level, which we are humans. And I think we forget that as entrepreneurs, that these emotional things that happen to us, these blocks that happen to us on a personal level, they are happening to us in our business. If
Yeah.
we are having, if we are having an emotional block around something in a personal sense, there's no way that that's not going to show up,
Yep.
and we're
Yep.
not going to be as effective in what we do and what we love when we're struggling with that.
Yeah.
It's like, I think about grief. Like, I think people understand it in the grief level. Like, you can't just like have somebody pass and then show up at work the next day and be just normal. Like, people
Mm-hmm.
understand grief, but that's the level of emotion that happens in other areas of our life too, that it's, maybe we can mask it a little bit better, but
Yep.
it's still there. And so we have to address those things to be whole enough to get to the point where we can give ourselves the joy of giving to ourselves by allowing
Mm-hmm.
other people to help us. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's an ever evolving thing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And I tend to think of like receiving as these just different sides of the same diamond, where it's like receiving money, receiving help, receiving praise, receiving a gift. All of these different ways of receiving feel really connected to me. So being able to kind of explore and play with these different areas can all just help us receive, allow more into our space.
yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I love this so much.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that everyone watching also loves it. So if you would like more of Dr. Alyssa Adams, how can they find you?
Yeah, great question. So they are welcome to hop over to my website, dralyssaadams.com. And that is a great place to find me. It's under construction right now, but there's still ways to email me and connect with me. You can follow me on Instagram, Dr. Alyssa Adams, or reach out and email me if you want. It's just Alyssa at dralyssaadams.com. So I'd love to connect, love to chat, and thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be connecting all of Dr. Alyssa's information in the show notes. So I encourage you to reach out and see if maybe her work might be good for you. And you never know. But this was an amazing conversation. I think it's one that's so important, and we should have it over and over again. I'll probably have you back on the show. We can expand even more.
Awesome. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Perfect VA show. I'm Riah Gonzalez, your host, and we will see you next time.